Hi, everyone, and welcome. I'm Jack Teal from the team here at Mayday. Thanks so much for joining us, and more importantly, thank you for being a Mayday customer. Today's session is all about the basics of Mayday, perfect for if you're just getting started or want a refresher on how everything works, or maybe you're new to a team who's already up and running with Mayday. Regardless, we're really glad to have you here. If you're here looking for a deeper dive into complex recharger setups, we actually run a separate recharger masterclass each month, so that might be better suited to you. So you can register for that anytime, or shoot us a message and we can send you the details. A little bit of housekeeping for today. The Q&A is open, so if you're in Zoom, in the toolbar there, you should have access to the Q&A. You can just shoot questions through if there's anything in particular that you want to dive into. But yeah, that's pretty much it from a housekeeping perspective. So happy to get started. In terms of the agenda today, obviously the session's called Basics 101. So I want to try and keep things relatively simple to make sure that anyone who's here just getting started has everything that they need. So I'll talk through accessing Mayday, navigating around Mayday, setting it up if you haven't gone too far down the setup process. And then we'll go through the basics around reconciling intercompany accounts in Balancer, posting simple expense recharges with Recharger. So as I said, we'll cover the basics of Recharger today, but anything more advanced than that will be in the Recharger Masterclass. We'll cover reconciling across your bank feed with our brag feature and maintaining your chart of accounts with MaydayHQ. So yeah, let me share my screen and bring up Mayday and we can go from there. Cool. So this is Mayday. In terms of the first thing, which was really accessing it, if you haven't logged in frequently before, then you can just go to my.getmayday.com, assuming you've already been invited in to use it, and then you can bookmark that easily. Makes it nice and quick to access. You just sign in with your 0 credentials. That'll take you straight through to the group that you have been invited into. If you are part of multiple groups, you can click change group up the top left corner here, which will allow you to swap between different groups that you've got access to. If you're the creator of the group and you need to invite your team in, just head down to settings, go to the team section and send them an invite. Just make sure that you're inviting their correct 0 login email or Intuit if you're a QBO group. But basically, yeah, just send them an invite. They'll get an email and they access it that way. If you don't send them an invite and they try to sign up, it will take them through the standard sign up process. So in terms of settings, a few things to call out today. One is under the product section here. If you are using Mayday, maybe you signed up, you set it up and you turned on only 1 or 2 features when you set up the trial, that's fine. You will only see those features that you've got activated. So if you'd like to turn on anything else anytime or turn anything off, just come into the products screen here. So if we release new features that you want to use in due course, you can come in here to activate them. If I scroll down the left-hand side here, we've then got our intercompany balances section. So this is with respect to setting up our intercompany loan account recs, intercompany AR and AP recs as well. So the way that this works is you come into this section, you go add intercompany balance, you choose the first entity, you choose the second entity, and then you choose the relevant loan account that lives between them that you expect to match. So in this case, I've got, in both of these, very not obviously named loan accounts for you. They'd probably be called, this one up here would probably be called loan to Mayday Australasia OpCo, and the bottom one down here would be called loan to Mayday Australasia Holdings. So it should be kind of a cross relationship. And then you can just go ahead and click save, and that will then create that intercompany relationship. It's worth knowing that you can add multiple accounts into either of these. So not only does Balancer work on a one-to-one basis, it works on a one-to-many or many-to-many basis as well, which can be useful depending on the way that you've got your Balancer set up. If you have accounts receivable and accounts payable within your group as well, so once you've saved all of your loan accounts, you can create AR and AP matches too. This is for the active plan. Just keep that in mind, depending on what plan you're on. But basically, this allows you to set up contact-based matches. So this is where if I'm in my Mayday Australasia Holdings 0 file and I raise an invoice and I send that invoice out to Mayday Australasia OpCo, I should have an invoice in one 0 file and an equivalent bill in the other. But sometimes things don't get posted to both sides. We end up with discrepancies in our AR and AP. So what we can do with Mayday is simply type in the entity's name over here and the equivalent entity's name over there and set up our balance that way. So this sets up an AR and AP match rather than a loan match. So both work slightly differently, and I'll talk you through that. But yeah, you just go through and set those up. And if you've got multiple spellings for the same contact, you can obviously add multiple options in here, just like I said for the loan accounts as well. So you go ahead and click save. The only other little thing to cover off on this screen is that if you are setting up any of your balances, you want to make sure that these two boxes are checked by default. Basically, this is telling Mayday that this is the default loan account to use for any transaction between this entity and this entity. Generally speaking, 99 times out of 100, those should both be checked. The only case or the only scenario that wouldn't be ticked is if you've got multiple relationships between the same two entities, then you can only tick these boxes on one of them. So you're going to choose whichever is kind of the default or the primary loan account between those entities. And that's so that we know where to post things when we're dealing with intercompany transactions. So by default, those should be ticked. If they're not, that may impact your use of our brag feature or our recharge feature. Moving up to account mapping, this section here is where you can set default locations for FX adjustments. So if you do have intercompany loans across multiple currencies and you want to post FX adjustments from Mayday, then we're going to ask you to tell us what FX adjustments account to use. It's worth keeping in mind that by default, the realized currency gains account that Xero gives you won't actually allow us to post anything fully. It'll allow us to post in draft, but then you have to go into Xero to approve it. So what a lot of Mayday users do is create a secondary realized currency gains account themselves and then use that because we can post to that. So in this case, account 500 is not the default. It's one that I've created. And then same goes. If you've got interest on any of your intercompany balances, you'd like to charge interest from Mayday, you just set up your default interest expense and interest income accounts so that we know where to put the relevant interest amounts. So yeah, that's basically the core things to cover from a setup perspective in the settings at least. And then if I scroll right down to the bottom in the group details section here, it's worth noting you've got the option to edit your group. So if you need to edit the name of your group, you can do that here. If you need to edit the start date, you can edit that here as well. So the start date is really how far back Mayday is pulling historical information. By default, you might have set up your trial and only set up 1 or 2 months of history. But now that you're in there and you want to see more history, you can go back further. You can just change that start date anytime. Just note, if you go a long way back and you've got a lot of transaction history in Xero, this little syncing thing over here, which when it is syncing will look like this. This might spin for a while. For big groups with a lot of history, we can be talking about millions of journals, and millions of journals or transactions can take hours, if not days, to process. If you're a smaller group, less transaction history, it might just be 5, 10, 15 minutes, maybe half an hour, maybe a few hours. It really just depends how much transaction volume there is for us to sync. But that's everything that I wanted to cover today in settings. Now to move over to kind of part 2 of the conversation around navigating Mayday. The key thing you need to know when navigating Mayday is really this product library. When you click product library, this will pop open the drawer. It'll show you all the features or products that you have turned on, and within each of those products, all of the different areas that you might want to access. So if you're ever wondering, oh, why am I seeing this screen? I want to jump over to a different product. It's probably just in the product library that you need to go. And then from there, you'll see all of the products you have access to, and you can jump into the relevant one from there. Down this kind of left-hand menu, you've got the ability to pin this or not. So if you don't pin it, it will fold away. So you've got a little bit more screen real estate. If you want to keep it there, you can pin it and it will stay there. And then down the left here, as I said, you've got your sync button, which allows you to force a sync anytime. So if I've just posted something to Xero 1 minute ago and I want to see it in Mayday, just click sync and we'll bring that through. We do sync a couple of times automatically every day for you, but you might find it useful from time to time to be able to create a sync yourself. Sources is where you go to add or connect other accounting files. So whether you're adding a Xero connection or a QBO connection, you can come in here and click connect an organization. Settings we've already touched on. Notifications we won't touch on today. Log out, you probably won't need that. And then you've got your help center down the bottom left corner here. So if you are looking for help guides, articles, videos, FAQs, that's a really good place to go. You can see all of the different features laid out, deep dive articles, step-by-step instructions, hopefully everything that you need. You've also got this little chat thing down here in the bottom right corner where you can reach out to us and we then get back to you as soon as we can. So now we've covered settings, we've covered navigation. I will now kind of get started with our first product of today, which is Balancer. So Balancer, we've set up in our settings, as I said before, we've set up all of our different relationships. So we've got our loan relationships and we've got our AR and AP relationships potentially. In here, you've got the ability to show all balances or just account-based balances, which are generally your loans, or your AR and AP based balances only. So you can kind of toggle between those if you want to view certain ones. The filters up the top here can be quite useful as well if you're looking for a particular balance between two particular entities. Makes it nice and easy to filter this list, because I know that for some groups there are going to be a lot of these balances. You've also got a matrix view on the right hand side and a detailed list view on the left. So a number of different things here just around how you view this and search through your different intercompany balances. By default, the view balances at date will revert to, every time you come to this screen, it will revert to the last day of the last month. So just so you know, you can override that anytime. You can go back a month, you can go forward to today's date, do whatever you need to do to present this list how you need. If you are ever needing to export this, this download button here allows you to export this to a spreadsheet or to a PDF nice and easily as well. So if you need to share it with another stakeholder who doesn't have access to Mayday, you can always do that up the top, or if you need to download this at the end of the month, once everything's nice and green for supporting documentation, you can do that as well. So that's kind of the primary screen and how to navigate it. Now let's go through the process that I would suggest going through if you get to your month end and it's time to clean things up. So in this case, we're looking at our balances as at the 30th of June. I obviously have some nice green balances down here, which is great. So we've kept everything in order, fantastic. But we do have a few problems at the top here. So what I want to do is I want to click on the name or the little arrow on the left-hand side here to pop open that particular balance. So really here, I'm looking at a loan between Mayday Australasia Holdings and Mayday Australasia OpCo. I can see the loan account number and name from Xero, and I can see the balance from Xero here as well. So that makes it nice and easy. I don't have to jump in between multiple Xero files to see everything. I can see it in one place. This discrepancy obviously represents the difference between those balances. And so in this case, I want to go ahead and resolve that. So what you're going to do is click on See Transaction Details here, this button. That then takes you to a different screen where we've pulled in all the transactions from both Xero files and presented them side by side. So in this case, this is Mayday Australasia Holdings. This is the amount, the total amount of transactions that have gone through each month. And this is Australasia OpCo, total amount that's gone through each month. And then the balance column here is the closing balance per Xero at the end of each of those months. What I suggest doing and what we recommend in terms of how you actually use this tool is look at the discrepancy column. The discrepancy column makes it really nice and easy to see where your issues are. So down the left-hand side, if I start at the bottom in July 2024, our discrepancy is 0, which is perfect. I have no issues. I don't need to do anything. I then roll up every month until I find the first month where things don't balance. So in this case, it's May 2025. I don't need to resolve June yet because I haven't resolved May. So I actually need to start here and get this sorted. So what I can do is I can click on the month of May. That then expands out all the transactions that have gone through. And so now you're seeing each specific transaction with a link through showing the accounting file, a little bit more information from that as well. And on the other side, you can see that Mayday has automatically matched up the transaction. In a case like this, you can see we've got 2 transactions that have been automatically matched across the right-hand side here to 6 different transactions. So it is quite powerful in its ability to match, which makes your life nice and easy. But what I want to do is I still want to scroll back to the bottom. The last time everything was in balance was down here on the 5th of May. But on that same date, we now have a $6,500 issue or a discrepancy. So this is how you can go about resolving this. So I can see we've got $6,500 here and we have no equivalent transaction on the right-hand side. So there's 3 kind of core ways to address this. One is maybe this transaction here was posted to the intercompany account by mistake. If that's the case, click the Xero icon. We take you straight through to that transaction in Xero. From there, you can review it, edit it, do whatever you need to do, and then just come back into Mayday, click the sync button, and then that will be removed from the intercompany balance and you can move on. If in fact that is correct, and that was meant to be posted to the intercompany account, but we've simply forgotten to post the other side, then you can come across here and click the pen icon. The pen will then draft up a journal. We can just enter a narration, a description, choose an account code, and then we can go ahead and post that to 0. Mayday's already pre-filled the amount. It's already pre-filled that one side of the journal was going to go to the intercompany loan account. That makes your life nice and easy. Just click post. That will post immediately to that 0 file and bring that row back in balance so that you can move on. The third and most, I suppose, irregular or infrequent scenario might be that we have in fact posted the other side of this journal or this transaction, but maybe it happened a bit late. So maybe it happened a couple of weeks after and Mayday hasn't automatically matched those two transactions together. The matching is primarily within a 7-day window. So if you post something 14, 15, 20, 30, 50 days later, there's a good chance that Mayday might not actually match those together. So you might need to override or manually match them, which is totally fine. That's where this little fix this match tool comes in. So you can click on the spanner. That then takes you to a screen where basically you can see all of the matches. You can remove matches, manually match transactions, and do whatever you need to do. So in this case, maybe this 6,500 and this 6,500 have been automatically matched, but I don't want them to be matched. This 6,500 should actually be assigned to this one down here. So what I can do is I can choose the one that I want to break apart and click separate the transaction. So that one's from the 13th of May, separate. So now we've separated the 13th of May. It's up here, sitting alone. I can tick that box and tick this box down here and go ahead and group those transactions. And I can give it a title. I can explain what it is. It doesn't really matter too much. It's more about just for your own benefit if it's nice to see what exactly a transaction was. In this case, I leave it as unknown and I click save. You can see now that our 6,500 on the 5th of May has been assigned to our 6,500 on the 13th of May over here. Of course, that's not actually what I'd want to do because now we're left with a one-sided entry over here. But it at least shows you how you can use this tool. You can also match, multiple transactions to, multiple transactions in this case. Okay. And we'll show you the totals at the top, make sure that things balance before you go ahead and make any of those changes. In this case, I'm going to cancel my changes. I don't want to save the overrides. In your case, you may want to save the overrides. But yeah, once I've resolved my $6,500 issue down here, I should then scroll up to the next time that our discrepancy changes and work through this $1,100 amount. And then I work through my $3,800 amount. Basically, these little arrows here are telling me where there's a change in the discrepancy, which is flagging any one-sided entries. So once I've got May in balance, then I can move on to June. Okay. Of course, you can post an entry at the 30th of June to just wash away all your discrepancies, and that's okay. That's up to you and how you want to manage your accounts. That May discrepancy will still show as being out, but then your June will show as being in balance and you can just move on from there. So that can sometimes be the scenario for really badly out of balance historical loans that you're then trying to tidy up and move forward with cleanly. Cool. So that's that. Couple of other things to note with respect to balancer. One is FX. So if you're dealing with a multi-currency loan, there are some small differences. So one is that when we go to look at this balance, you're going to see it over here in one currency, which is GBP, and over here in another currency, which is AUD. This reflects the functional currency of these two 0 files. Depending on what you've got set up, you can override who's the creditor and who's the debtor, but by default, the debtor is the one who's borrowing. They're the one who's going to wear the FX risk. So they're the balance that we're going to then convert. So you can see here, the Australian dollar amount has been converted to pounds. We have help articles explaining what FX rates we use if you want to kind of delve into it. But if you've got a very specific rate you want to use, if you've got a consolidation software that's using a different rate, you can, of course, come in here and override the rate and apply whatever you need it to be. But once you've got your rate and you're happy, then this is the balance, £123,000 comparing to £131,000, which means there's going to be a discrepancy. So the discrepancy shows here, £7,700, which converts back using the same rate to 16,300 Australian dollars. So what you first want to do is go to your transaction details screen like we did before, double check that you've got all your transactions posted side by side, make sure that you're all happy. And then you can simply come here and post the remaining discrepancy as an FX adjustment. This button here will draft up the journal for you. Journal to Mayday Australasia Holdings. It'll post to the realized currency gains account, the one we set up earlier in our settings in the account mapping screen. As I said, if you use the zero default one, it will only allow you to post it as draft. You'll then have to go into zero to approve it. But given I'm not using the default one, I can actually post it directly. So in this case, I can go ahead and click post. That posts to zero. That will then bring that loan back in balance, and it will effectively, there'll be a one-sided posting to the loan account just purely for FX adjustment on the 30th of June. And then as of the 1st of July, if the FX rates fluctuate, that loan will now be out of balance again, but you're probably not going to be posting FX adjustments daily. You're probably going to do that at the end of the month. Okay. So that's what the FX process looks like. And then if I go back to, or any of my loans really that have interest on them. So if you're charging interest on any of your balances, that's the third part of the product. So you've got your default balance, just, making sure things are balancing. You've got and resolving those discrepancies. Secondly, you've got your FX, and thirdly, you've got interest. So in here, we've got interest. We want to charge interest. You can set up your interest rate. Over time, you can adjust that interest rate. Mayday then calculates the interest based on the daily balance of the loan, and then you can either invoice that interest out, clicking the invoice button, and that will raise an invoice in one entity and a bill in the other entity. You go ahead and click post. It's using the default accounts, once again, from the mapping screen we had in our settings. It's got the interest expense account down here. And if you intend to post this invoice and bill but not pay it, you can tick this box here and assign the relevant loan account so that this is going to be automatically marked off as paid to the intercompany loan account. If you prefer simply to add the interest to the balance as a journal, you don't want to worry about invoices and bills, you can click add interest to balance. That's going to post a journal and a journal. So very similar. It's just a choice as to whether or not you post it as an invoice and bill or as a journal. If you'd like to download the interest calculation as well, you can actually go inside your loan. So you go into the transaction details here. And if you download this specific loan as a spreadsheet, there will be a tab on that spreadsheet for the interest calculation. We've had multiple people double check it. It works really well, but I understand if you'd still like to double check it for your own comfort and peace of mind. Cool. So that covers off most of what I want to cover off for Balancer. The only other thing is your AR and AP balances. So up the top here, if I show just my AR and AP balances, there's some slight differences. So when I open these up, firstly, you'll notice that it doesn't show an account name because this is not an account-based balance. This is a contact-based balance. So basically this is saying in my Mayday London HQ 0 file, anything invoice, bill, credit note that has Mayday South London as the contact should match to Mayday South London 0 file where Mayday London HQ is the contact. In this case though, I have a discrepancy. So what do? I click on see full details. It operates similar to our other product where basically I'm interested in this discrepancy column. I go up to June, I pop the month of June open, and it makes it nice and easy to see. I've got £2,000 issue over here, which is invoice 131. Clearly, it's been raised in Mayday South London, but we have no equivalent invoice in Mayday London HQ. Or if we do have it in Mayday London HQ, maybe it's assigned to the wrong contact and we need to fix that up. Secondly, we've got £750 here, invoice 132, which same thing, has clearly been raised on one side and not the other. For now, you cannot resolve the posting from Mayday, so I can't click here to create the invoice on the other side. You still click into that 0 file. You can do that easily. Just click on any of these bubbles here. It'll take you straight through to that 0 file and create the relevant bill or invoice on that side. Sync it back through to Mayday, and we will then automatically match it all off and make sure that things are nice and neat. The other thing to note with this is that we do show a little caution here on the left wherever we think there's a problem. So obviously we've got a caution on this one and we've got a caution on this one because it looks like there's a one-sided entry. But we're also showing a caution up here, and there is no discrepancy. There's no dollar discrepancy here, but there is an invoice, which is invoice 54, which has been fully paid in Mayday South London, but there's no equivalent invoice or bill at all in London HQ. So that might not be an issue for you, but it may be something worth investigating, which is why we throw up that little caution symbol on the left-hand side. Great. So just a quick reminder, the Q&A is available if you've got any questions anytime, so throw them in there. But hopefully that's all making sense. I haven't seen any questions come through. So hopefully that helps with how you're using or going to use Balancer. Moving over now to Recharger. So as a quick reminder, Recharger's purpose is primarily for on charging and recharging costs. The standard scenario, this is not everyone's scenario, but the standard kind of classic scenarios, we've got a head entity or a centralized entity that does a lot of purchasing, pays for a lot of the bills, and then a portion of those costs need to be charged out to other entities. I'm going to take you through a simple scenario here, knowing that we have our recharge and masterclass, which is an entire session dedicated to recharges because there's so many different ways that people do this, and there's some complexities in it that we cover, and we need more time to cover. But let me kind of take you through a really simple example. We've got one of our entities in our group pays the accounting fees. So we get a bill from our accountant at the end of the year, maybe it's monthly, whatever the case may be, and we want to split that up across our group. Let's say we want to split it based on the head count of the different entities in our group. So we've got 6 Xero files, we've got 6 entities in different locations, and we've got a different number of people working in each of those locations, and I just want to split up my accounting bill based on that, which relatively reflects who's incurring what portion of accounting fees. So the way that I would set this up is firstly, I set up an apportionment method. The apportionment method is kind of the way that we want costs to be split up. Now, you don't need to create these, but for something like headcount, which I'm going to use across lots of my rules, maybe I split my accounting fees based on headcount, my marketing fees, my software subscriptions. I have a lot of different things that use headcount, so it is worth me setting it up centrally here. So I set up my headcount, I add a new one. You just call it headcount, type it correctly, and then enter in how many people in each place. In my case, I've already actually done this over here, so I won't do it again, but you enter in the people, Mayday calculates the percentages, and then you go ahead and click save. Each month, my job before I run my recharges would be to double check the headcount is still correct, and then make any changes. So in this case, we hired one person over here. I want to save that change. All of my recharges that apply headcount will now be automatically updated. Now that we've got our headcount sorted, I want to create the rule that's going to actually do this recharge. So I go to the rules section, I go to the entity that would be incurring the or receiving the accounting bill. So I'm going to go to my HQ, which pays the accountant, and I'm going to go to my expense rules section. You've got different kinds of rules for different kinds of recharges, which we'll cover in the masterclass. But in this case, expense is where I'm going to go. I'm going to add a new rule for expenses. Now, my recharge is at cost. You do have an option to add a markup, which we'll cover in the masterclass, but at cost is just meaning whatever it hits zero, the accounting bill is $1,000. Well, great. That's what we're going to recharge out. We're not going to add 10%, 25% on top. It's just as it is. Step 2, which transactions should be recharged? This should be familiar with respect to Xero bank rules, if you've used Xero bank rules, where basically you're telling Mayday what to look for. So I'm looking for anything that goes through the audit and accountancy fees account. You can add other conditions such as contact. So if you're looking for just bills from a very specific accountant, maybe you work with multiple consultants, and you just want to make sure it's only the certain firm's bill. You can enter a contact, maybe tracking category or description could be useful as well. In this case, I'm just grabbing everything that hits that account. Step 3, which entities should be charged and what should they be charged? So I can come through here and I can manually set this up. So at the moment, it's going 100% is going to be recharged to Mayday Australasia, but maybe I don't want to recharge 100%. I can adjust the apportionment units here. And if I put the total as 2 units and I have 1 unit going there, that means 50% of the cost would be recharged out. 50% would stay in the head entity. I can add other entities. I can split this in so many different ways. It's completely customizable. All you need to do is tell us the relevant accounting fees account in each of these entities, and then that's basically job done. In my case, though, remember that we set up that apportionment method for headcount. That's how I want to split my cost up. I don't want to have to add all the entities and split it all up and every single month come in here and edit this. So what I do is I choose headcount from my drop-down list. That then automatically applies the headcount. You can see there the 13 people. That was what I just edited before. And once again, I just come in here and I choose the relevant accounting fees account. Now, on the right-hand side of the account code that I'm entering here, you do have what I've got is entities and departments. These are my tracking categories in each of these Xero files. You would have whatever tracking categories you've got. And interestingly here, 25.49% of the cost goes to Mayday London HQ. And because Mayday London HQ is the one that's actually paid the bill originally, we don't have to do anything in this. So now I've got my rule set up. I'm going to call this HQ accounting fees recharge. Nice and easy. Go ahead and click save, and job done. Okay. In my case, I'm not going to save the rule, but you just go ahead and click save. That will then create that rule. Once you've created a rule, nice and easy to archive it if you have used it previously and for future months you don't want to use it anymore. Easy to duplicate it if you've got another rule that's exactly the same that maybe applies for marketing expenses or for software subscriptions. You can just duplicate the rules over and over again and create as many as you need. But just keep in mind, different entities may need different rules. You don't need to create a rule on both sides. If Mayday London HQ is the one recharging it to all my other entities, that's where the rule lives. I don't need rules in my other entities as well. So you've got your head count set up. You've updated that at the end of the month. You've got your rules set up. You don't need to recreate your rules every month. They're there permanently. So now it's time to actually run your recharges and have these posted to 0. So what you do is you come to calculations. You say to Mayday, great, it's time to run my recharges. Go ahead and click new calculation and choose the month you want to run it for. So in this case, July. So you click July and you click create. For me, I don't want to run July. I want to look back at a past month. But basically, you click create. Mayday goes over all your 0 files for that month, looks at all the transactions that have gone through, figures out which transactions meet the criteria of your rules. We then show you a screen for a review first. Then you move through to the postings, which is the final stage before we post to 0. So let me go into my June calculation that we've run. So let's imagine I just clicked on June and clicked create. This is the screen that would then appear. What you've got is you've got your entity, you've got the different type of rule, you've got each of the rules that have run listed out, and then you've also got a don't recharge section. So these are the rules that you've created and that have run. You can click on these and see the 0 transactions that have been picked up. You can hover over the amounts on the right-hand side and see where they're going to get recharged. And you can make changes as well. So you could tick those two and override anything that you need, adjust the rule, move them to don't recharge, whatever you need to do. This screen is designed to be as flexible as possible for all the different scenarios that you might incur. We want 99 or 95% of your process to be automated through the rules, but we know that there's little adjustments and tweaks you may need to make on a month-to-month basis. The don't recharge section is simply everything else. So if we're looking at our expense rules, this is going to encompass every single expense that's gone through this 0 file that doesn't meet the criteria of a rule, which is why this recharge column here says 0, which basically means £72,000 of expenses are not getting recharged, which is fine. You can also view this by account code. So if you prefer to view P&L codes, you can see that here. You can see our subscriptions, £4,498 for that month. 0 is getting recharged, which may be what we want. It may not be what we want, but that's how it works. It's going to show you that. You can open that up. You can make adjustments if you need to. For rent, you can see that my rent is being recharged. You can see which transactions are getting recharged and where. So nice and easy. This is a review screen. We want to be completely transparent about what's about to happen. You may not need to do anything. You may want to make some adjustments. It's totally up to you. Once you've reviewed everything, you move through to the next step and then eventually through to the posting screen. This is the final screen before things get posted to 0. So down the left-hand side, you've got your different entities. So I've got Australasia Holdings to Australasia Opco. This is a single invoice, bill, or journal that is going to go between these two entities and into these two separate 0 files at the same time, encompassing all of the recharges that are relevant between those two entities. You've then got your other inter-entity pairings listed down the side. So each pairing of entities will have an invoice and bill or a journal to post. When you click on the pairing, you can choose if to post it as an invoice and bill or as a journal. As a journal, it means it goes into the relevant expense or revenue codes, and it will offset to the relevant intercompany loan account. So in this case, we can see all of the transactions, and we can see the intercompany loan account handles the balance of it. Likewise, on this side, the intercompany account handles the balance of it. If we go via an invoice and bill, then by default, that's going to go to accounts receivable and accounts payable instead of going against the intercompany loan account. Now, you can have the best of both worlds as well. If you go with invoice and bill, and you would like it to be automatically marked off as paid to the intercompany loan account, we can do that too. So you just tick this box here. And this is going to be pre-filled because way back at the start of today's session, when we were setting up our intercompany balances and we ticked those two little boxes under the intercompany balance, that tells us we know the default loan between Mayday Australasia Holdings and Mayday Australasia Opco. And we know that it's this account and this account. So we know where to post them. From this screen, you can set your tax rates. So if I want to set my GST on all income lines to GST on income, I can say set all income lines, confirm. All my income lines are now GST on income. Maybe my expenses are GST on expenses. I can set all expense lines to be that as well. Down here, maybe for some reason these are to be excluded. Each entity is going to have different tax treatments for different things, so you can set what you need to. We then remember that as you go through future months. When you're ready, you just click post. Mayday then posts both entries, so invoice in one entity, bill in the other, or journal in one entity, journal in the other, whatever you've determined. Once you've done that, if I go over here on the left-hand side to one that has been posted already, you'll see a view in zero option next to each of them. So if I go into the invoice, this is what that looks like. Here is the invoice as it has been posted into Mayday London HQ 0 file. There it is. And at the bottom there, you've got a go to Mayday button as well. So that'll take you straight through to the calculation. And then on the other side, we've got our bill. So this one's going into Mayday Australasia Holdings. There's the bill. And I know it's just a zero thing, but they present slightly differently. So the go to Mayday button is actually up the top left here for any bills. So that's basically the process. You work your way through, you post all of your transactions. Once posted, if you make changes to your rules apportionments or bring in late transactions, you can simply click on recalculate, bring in the late transactions, click on edit, and update the posting. You can do this until such time as you click mark as final. Mark as final will effectively lock down that month's transactions so that we can maintain the integrity of the data of that month. So it's kind of a line in the sand moment. We have help guides and articles that explain this in more detail. If you go through this process and you're wondering, is it time to mark it as final or not? Generally speaking, post them all to zero. And if you're pretty much confident that you're done for the month, you don't intend to make any more changes, that's a good time to click mark as final. And then on this screen here, you should have 3 ticks across, which is you've reviewed your transactions, posted them to zero, and marked them all as final. So that there walks you through the basics of Recharger. There are so many different scenarios. We've got a lot of customers who have more complex recharges, tracking category-based recharges, employees that work across different places, and they're wondering how they can use Recharger to recharge those wages. That's the kind of stuff we cover in our masterclass. You can also use this for intra-entity reallocations. So reallocating costs within an entity. Maybe every time a transaction hits a certain account code, you want it to be split 3 ways to 3 different tracking categories. We can do that kind of stuff through this tool as well, all of which is covered in the masterclass. So moving over now to Bragg. Bragg is our bank rec across the group product. That's what it stands for, bank rec across the group. The way that this works is via a browser extension. So you actually go to the setup section first. You install the relevant extension depending on your browser. In my case, I click on Google Chrome. It'll take you to the store. You click on add to Chrome. There'll be a button here, add to Chrome. That will then add it to your browser. It'll appear here, and from there you can pin it so that it's easily accessible up the top corner. Once a day, you do need to click on that and then connect it to Mayday so that we have the connection. That then allows this tool to operate. The reason why we built Bragg, before I jump in and show you, is for the scenario where during the month, not at the end of the month when we're running our recharges in bulk, but during the month, we may pay for something out of one of our bank accounts, which is connected to one of our Xero files, but we're actually paying a bill that's sitting in a different Xero file. So we're actually left to reconcile those 2 things together, but they're in different Xero files. That creates a bit of a problem for someone in the team where they have to jump between different Xero files, go find the bill, mark the bill off as paid to the intercompany loan account, remember the other side and make sure that the bank feed's reconciled the same way. It often leads to it's time consuming to do, but it often leads to mistakes and one-sided entries. So Bragg is designed to solve that problem. The way that it works, you go to your dashboard. Hopefully I'm in a Xero file that has some unreconciled transactions. You go to your reconciliation screen. And now because of this browser extension that we've installed, you'll see a Mayday tab added to your bank feed. This is really designed to do what Xero already does a great job of with match and create, but it does it across your group. So if I've spent $14,000 and I know that this was the payment of a bill, but that bill is not in this Xero file, I can go to the Mayday tab. Mayday then presents matches for you, which may be items that may match to that amount. You can scroll through the list, and if you can find what you need, you can simply tick it, and you could say, actually, it's this one and this one and this one and this one that I'm matching it to, and multi-select. Or if you want, you can create the relevant transaction as well. So you could go create and say this relates to this entity. It's a direct spend money, 14,000. I'm going to put it to their contact list. You can't create new contacts, but you can choose from their existing contact list, choose the relevant account, general expenses, marketing costs, whatever the case may be. Choose any tracking category data, choose the tax rate that you need, and add it to the selected. Once you are ready, you can go to the review screen. The review screen shows you what's about to happen. So in this case, it's going to create a spend money transaction in the other entity. If you were marking it off against an existing bill, then obviously it would show you that bill that you're going to mark it off against. When you click the continue button, two things are going to happen. One, automatically behind the scenes, Mayday goes into that Xero file and either matches off, marks the bill as paid via the intercompany loan account, or in this case, creates the transaction and marks it off as paid to the intercompany loan account. That happens automatically. On this side, as soon as you click that button, we take you to the create tab here, and this will all be pre-filled also to the intercompany loan account on this side so that you can click OK. So it allows the person reconciling this screen to do both sides of the transaction without leaving this Xero file. It just makes for a much more efficient process and minimizes the chance that we end up with one-sided postings to the loan account. It's also worth noting the other scenario this is quite useful for is if you have customers who pay you for things and they are having services or working with multiple entities that you offer. Sometimes they pay into the wrong locations. So cash receipts against invoices, you can use this for. It also supports bank transfers. So if this is actually transferring, or let's say this one down here, let's say this is transferring $2,000 to another entity. I can go to the Mayday tab. I can go create, choose the entity, choose transfer from the list, choose the bank account that it has been transferred to. This process is slightly different. If you click continue, Mayday can't, because of Xero's API, it can't automatically match off the $2,000 on the other side. But it will present to you when you go to that bank feed and you've got this Mayday extension installed, you will see a nice little green match waiting for you on the Mayday tab. So number one, it makes your life really easy when you get to that other screen because you don't have to guess. It's already been marked off. It's already showing as green. On this side, the exact same thing happens. You click continue, this create tab here pre-fills to the intercompany loan account and you click OK. So it supports both bill and invoices, but it also supports bank transfers too. If you need more assistance, Help Center is a great place to go. Step-by-step instructions shows you exactly what you're going to see at each stage. You also then in the product have a reconciliation log. The reconciliation log contains every single transaction that has been, I suppose, completed using the tool. It will also show you in this case where you've set up a transfer and you've dealt with one side of the transfer, but you haven't dealt with the other. So it makes it nice and easy to spot any potential issues there as well. Okay. So that's Bragg. That's where that fits into the suite. And then finally, we've got MaydayHQ on the right-hand side. MaydayHQ is more of a control panel, hopefully a useful resource for anyone who's a Mayday customer. You're managing multiple Xero files or multiple accounting files, and you've got maybe some challenges maintaining your chart of accounts, visibility over lock dates, tracking categories, getting out of line. That's what MaydayHQ is for. There's three sections. One is the dashboard. So if you click on the dashboard, this is really designed to show you a few key elements, a few key pieces of information just in one place. So you've got your lock dates listed here, and we flag for you if your lock date is inconsistent. So if you lock down all of your months to the 31st of December, but we can see here Mayday USA is not locked down yet, we're going to flag that as a potential issue. It just makes life so much easier than having to jump into all those different Xero files and manually check the lock dates. So that's an easy win. You've then got next to that your cash balances at the end of the last month, which we've just heard is nice to know without having to jump into all your different Xero files. We're also looking at what else we might add to this screen over the course of time. You then have your chart of accounts tool. This is a super powerful tool. Lots of good feedback on this and how people are using it to save time. But basically the way that this works is you choose one of your Xero files to act as the primary. So in this case, I've set Mayday Australasia OpCo as the primary. Don't worry, you can change this. You just choose any other entity and it will swap the primary entity. We then compare all of your entities against that. So if I go to my expense codes here, these are my primary codes, 420 entertainment should match to 420 entertainment, which it does. But over here, we've got a slightly different naming convention. We've got the dash 100% business. If I want consistency across these, I can simply click on my mismatches like so, and Mayday will present what it should be named based on what we've got as our primary. And if I want to save those changes, I can click Save Accounts in the bottom left corner there, and that will then push those changes directly through to those zero files and change the color of those to green. You've also got missing accounts. So in my Mayday USA file, clearly I'm missing my 404 bank fees account and my cleaning account. So I can add those two like so and go ahead and click Save Accounts, and that will create those two accounts in that zero file for me. And then thirdly, if I want to create a brand new account, I can scroll right to the top, click Create New Account, choose the code, choose the name, and then it will draft up all 6 of my new accounts. I can set custom tax rates across them, given each entity might be slightly different in terms of its tax treatment. And then down here, click Save Accounts, and that will push through all 6 accounts to the relevant zero files all at once. So it makes maintaining a consistent chart of accounts across the group so much easier than ever before. A really good tool if you haven't seen it. As part of our plans, just note for some levels of our plans, this is a read-only feature. It'll just show you where your discrepancies are. You can't fix things. But if you're on an active plan or above, you will be able to make the changes directly from within Mayday. And then tracking categories. This is very similar. Basically operates in the same way. It'll show you that we've got departments as a tracking category across these entities, but we're missing it in Mayday USA. We've got Mayday entities as a tracking category in most of our entities, but we've got some inconsistencies here as well. And if you want to create a new one, you add a new option, choose, say, HR as a new tracking category department, and I can go ahead and save those, and that will then push through to the relevant zero files. So nice and easy. If you get up and running, you got any questions, Help Center again, got any ideas around what else we could be doing for the MaydayHQ section of the product, please send us a message. Now, I know that's been a lot. We've covered a lot of ground today. I have kept my eye on the Q&A section, but I haven't seen any questions come through. So I'm hoping that's a good thing, but I'm sure you will have some questions as you get up and running. The Help Center is where I 100% recommend you go. There's lots of FAQs, lots of good guides, articles, and videos in there that will step you through specific functionality. I will very quickly touch on this down here. This is our upcoming functionality. We haven't finalized naming conventions, how it's going to look and feel. It will probably look and feel a little bit different when it eventually gets released. But along with our multi-entity suite of tools, Balancer, Recharger, Brag, and MaydayHQ, we're looking broader. We're looking at the other month-end challenges that businesses have. What are the big accounting processes that take a lot of time, that involve big spreadsheets, that are error-prone? And so deferred revenue is a massive one, and prepayments is another massive one that seems to be quite manual at the moment for teams when it comes to their month-end process. So we're looking to build a nice and seamless way of dealing with those transactions. How do you defer quickly? How do you update those deferral schedules? What about prepayments? How do you release your prepayments over the course of the year? So keep an eye out for that functionality, which will be released over the next couple of months. But yeah, thank you again for taking the time. We really appreciate it. We love having you on as a customer. And I hope you enjoy using Mayday, and hopefully this has been a useful session to help you get the most out of the product. Thank you all for your time. Really appreciate it. And I'm sure I'll speak with you soon. Cheers.